What up, world? I'm Aslan Javandi. He is Michael Langston. Welcome into this edition of Warchant TV. Michael's our recruiting analyst for Warchant.com as well as Rivals.com. Use the promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access to Warchant.com. And this is the time, folks. You get on that premium recruiting board, you're probably going to end up, blinking your eye and then looking at your watch, and then it's 2 hours has gone by because there's so much going on, and Michael's got you totally up to date with everything that's percolating with Florida State recruiting. So, Michael, with that said, that national signing that we've all loved for so long, that first Wednesday in February, it's getting very close. It's maybe not as big of a deal for a lot of schools as it has been in the past of that early signing day, but just how much has Florida State been able to accomplish as we get closer to that signing day in February?
I think they've gotten pretty close. You're filling needs, offensive line, running back. They seem to, be close to, finishing off at least, from a high school JUCO standpoint. As far as those positions. But I think they've done a tremendous job when you look at, that's the thing fans get so enamored by. They're like, oh, I want 4 stars, I want 5 stars, I want Rivals 250. But that's not what this class is about. It's about fulfilling guys that they know that fit Norvell's, what he wants to do, players that fit what he wants to do and as far as his system. So I think he's doing that. I think he's accomplishing that. I think more are coming. I think more good news is probably coming later on. But I think they're in a good place going into that final weekend.
All right, and that's because this past weekend was a junior day, but we'll focus on the class of 2020. Florida State got some good news on Sunday. We'll travel back to that one a little bit later on in the show. But on Monday, Florida State got some real good news. Position of need, offensive line. What do we know about Robert Scott, Michael?
Very, very talented left tackle. That's what he's going to play at FSU. He's a guy that they've been working on for like 3 weeks. So in a 3-week span, they were able to do something that unfortunately the previous staff couldn't do, is getting talented guys in there, offensive tackles, and not only get them in, but finishing the deal. And Robert Scott visited on, I believe, the first weekend of January, January 17th weekend. They went in there, and I think Coach Atkins was a big, big plus here. I've talked to you guys about he's a rock star. He's a guy that really connects with kids and knows how to connect with recruits. And I think he really hit a home run as far as that visit goes. But also just the kid knew he could play there. He knew the fit was really good with Coach Atkins as far as what he's going to do with the linemen. But also there was a comfort personally that he didn't have anywhere else, that he connected with FSU like no other place. And this is a massive pickup for them because it shows you kind of the change of where they're going. Of you can go in there and recruit kids for 2 weeks, talented guys that are committed to. He was previously committed to Ole Miss. You can go in there, get these guys. You go in there and win on the field, you're going to be talking about 4 and 5 stars guys that you'll be able to do that with. So it kind of shows you the recruiting prowess that these guys can do it in the short term, get the job done, fill the need, and really make an impression. I think the family of Robert Scott told me that was the most personable visual visit they've ever been on, and or even visit in general they've been on. So I think it speaks a lot about what we've heard about Norvell, the organization, the no-nonsense approach, direct, straightforward to everything. And I think, they nailed a home run with getting this pickup. This is a massive pickup, not just for this year, but also going into the future in the 2021 class.
Listed at 6'6", 295 pounds out of Conway, Arkansas. I mean, you mentioned that he was on campus not too long ago, Michael. I mean, how did he look, at least just physically? I mean, before we kind of dive maybe into some of the tape.
Oh, the kid's massive. I mean, 6'6". I think he told me 305. Looked like he was ready to play at FSU right now. His body frame was good. There wasn't a lot of bad weight that you saw that he was carrying or anything. He looked very, very well put together as far as going there. And then his sister, which I was very impressed with, his sister is actually a 2023 basketball prospect. She's 6'3", like 6'3" for. Yeah. Girls is tall, big, yeah. Very tall. So she and so that was the other thing they did, is they made sure the experience was more than just about Robert. It was about the whole family. She got to meet Sue Samaral, went over there, saw the basketball complex, even in between, and there wasn't any breakup as far as flow of the whole visits. Not just that weekend, but also this weekend and in junior day. It was just such a constant flow, and there was always something where they knew exactly what they wanted to do the whole visit. and it's just a high comfort of. I think the one thing they preached is their family, that work they're going to do, but they're putting the work ethic to match the family. You can say family and show family, but you also have to have the other aspects of the visit. Everything was executed flawlessly, I would say, nearly flawlessly for Robert Scott. And it's like I said, I cannot stress enough how massive this pickup is. I know people will say, "Well, Mike, he's only a 3-star," but you could argue, you watch this film, 4-star talent when you see him, but it's more what steps you're moving forward. You got to start somewhere with offensive line recruiting. This is a great place to start. He's a great position of need. You need left tackle. You need tackles, period, but you really need left tackles. So adding him was massive. And I'll give a shout out to Darius Washington. He hosted him, did a tremendous job with that kid. Their personalities are kind of the same as far as how Darius is, and Darius sold them on what these coaches are, what they've done, and what he's seen. And I think that was a big piece to it is the job Darius did.
I don't want to be the guy to, I don't want to look in the past too much, Michael, but we have to obviously see, where Florida State is now, and a lot of that is in comparison to where they were and where they want to get back to. You talk about people sometimes focusing on the wrong things, whether it's stars or Rivals 250 rankings, things like that. I'm probably guilty of it when it came to Mike Norvell assembling the staff. It felt like defensive coordinator, offensive line are probably your two most important hires, and neither of those guys had Power 5 sort of experience, but you're just seeing the amount of talent and the guys they're involved with, and they're able to flip guys. I mean, how impressed are you with just when you're talking to these families of these recruits, and they're talking about the things that have stood out, being on campus, the organization, because that was something that seemed to be kind of lacking in some of the targets that Florida State had been going after under Willie Taggart's sort of administration. So for you, I mean, is Florida State just kind of getting back to where a program at their level should be when it comes to hosting recruits and pitching them on the university, or does it feel like Norvell and company are even kind of maybe above what you would expect at a place like Florida State when it comes to being organized and having a clear vision and articulating that?
Well, I think what they've done, it reminds me a lot of the Bowden and the Fisher years, where the organization's there, they have a plan set in place, what they want to do, they're executing it. The organization is flawlessly or dramatically a big improvement than what it was. We would see, official visits last year where kids were sitting around. I mean, I'm talking about priority kids on official visits, just sitting around waiting, for a car to come pick them up, or waiting. There's a lull into the visits. You don't see any lulls. Everything's clean. It's a step-by-step thing. There's always something to do. And even more important, and I like it, is they're efficiently getting these kids done with the visits, as quickly as they can, as long as they accomplish everything they're doing. I think it speaks to the organization of planning. They understand it isn't just about the prospect; it's also about all the family that's there with them, showing them that what level you're going to take FSU to. And I think, everyone came in thinking like, oh, he hasn't played. You got Mike Norvell. He's not from a Power 5 conference, but I don't think that's really even the focus of a lot of these families when they go in there. I think they're seeing what the vision is. They're excited. And I think a lot of that speaks to how genuine and straightforward these coaches are. They're being very, they're going to do. And two, these kids on the visits, they watch the tour duty, as they call it over there, the spring training with FSU's players, and that Norvell is running them through. They watch what they're doing. And I think, too, the message is consistent, where the last 2 years, the message was not consistent with all the players. And I think that's a big direct difference from what you see this year. And it's always going to show with your preparation, whether it's recruiting on the field, you have preparation, you're going to get the results you expect. So I think that's what's happening in recruiting now with Coach Norvell, and I'm sure FSU fans hope that results on the field. But I think the preparation recruiting has been outstanding. I've said this many times in recruiting on the boards, that they always plan for something that could happen, that could change things. Like if their first plan doesn't work, they already have 2 or 3, 4 different plans to execute.
Corey Wren just a 3-star, some people might say, Michael, but a guy who'd been committed to Georgia for the better part of a year. A kid who I think at some point was the number 2 100-meter sprinter in the entire nation when it comes to high school runners. So, adding a need at offensive line, size, and then you're getting speed on Sunday with Corey Wren's commitment. Just how did that sort of thing come about with Corey getting on the radar and this team and this coaching staff being able to kind of seal the deal with him?
Well, I think with Corey, he visited really, really early in the spring when the old staff was here. And then, he seemed to really like it. He always had FSU on his mind. And but just the staff wasn't there. The season just looked like just a mess, and there's just nothing. I just didn't think he felt comfortable with anything that they were doing as far as the future, or what the future would hold. And then enter Coach Norvell, which Corey already liked. He liked him a lot. He knew the type of stuff he did. It was the perfect staff. And then David Johnson comes on board. David's the guy he's closest with. He recruited him from Tennessee. Heard that he was going to go to Tennessee. If he didn't leave Tennessee, he was probably gonna, like, if David Johnson didn't leave Tennessee, there was a good chance Corey would end up there. So once David jumped on board, I thought it was lights out. And even Corey said last night in his interview, I already committed before I even took the visit, or I knew exactly. I knew I was going there first. So I think the visit was pretty much just an exclamation point to finish it off. And they're getting an electrifying, dynamic playmaker at running back. He can do a lot of different things. I think they'll line him up running back, receiver, all over the place. But this kid is blistering fast. He's probably the second fastest player in the country. Arian Smith, I think, is a little bit faster, but it's close. They flip-flop times as far as having the fastest time. So both of those guys are 2 of the fastest in the country. And this, Corey Wren's going to add a lot to that offense as far as how you can use them, special teams, kickoffs, running back, just an explosive guy. And they don't have somebody like Corey at the running back position. And that was the one thing Norvell said in the early signing day press conference. He says, we know that we want to get more running backs, but we want a diverse group. And that's what he did. He brought in, these running backs, but then he brought in LaDainian Webb. They got a week earlier. Then they went in there. After they got him, they got a different guy in Corey Wren. So I think he wanted that diversity to go along with, Toafili, Wren, and Webb are all different type of backs. And I think that's what he really wanted is a consistency of guys that can attack you in a multiple ways. Running backs where I expect him to play. It's a good start for them. We'll see if they go after another one. I think they'll try for Dajon Edwards from Colquitt County. I feel like he's a Georgia lean, and I think that a lot of that depends on what happens with the Zach Evans situation. If Georgia changes their mind, they want Zach in, then it turns in, it flips the script there, and FSU has a pretty solid shot of getting Dajon. But if that doesn't happen and Georgia does want Dajon, probably end up at Georgia, and then they'll probably be done, I would say, with the running back position. But like I said, you feel the needs of what you need, and they're already doing that. We saw that with Robert Scott on the offensive line. Now Corey Wren, LaDainian Webb, and back-to-back weekends at running back. I think you're nailing what you need.
Will there be actual signing day commitments and phone calls you think the staff is waiting on, or is the expectation that they'll just kind of keep adding another player or two, I guess, hopefully, until that day does arrive?
I think 27, 29 is total. I think in the early signing period they had 20 signings if you count the grad transfers and transfers in general. So you want to get up there. I don't know if there's a guy that I can think about that they would be waiting for on like National Signing Day that's going to do something right now, at least right now. Dajon might be that guy, but that will be the only one that kind of just jumps out to me. I think the rest of these are going to keep adding, each weekend as they visit. So I think you could add some more, coming up, after this weekend, or even going forward from the official visitors that just came by last weekend. And Dorian Wilmanson, who was previously committed to Tennessee, decommitted today, looks good for FSU. FSU likes him as a receiver. Probably could be the replacement for Malachi Weidman if he doesn't stick with you. Then they had tight end Marquiston Douglas was in. He's another one they like a lot. I think they're going to get both of those guys. I think eventually they're going to land both of those guys. So that's two more. So I think they're going to gradually just keep adding positions because you need a tight end with the departure of Trey McKitty. So you want to get a tight end, maybe even get a grad transfer tight end. I don't know. We'll see what they do there. But I think they're going to slowly add pieces as we get closer to that February 5th day.
Michael, a lot of people obviously, we keep talking about, stars and all that kind of stuff, and there might not be chock full of that in this class, but this is kind of obviously the short time frame the staff had to get ready for December, and then kind of trying to stabilize things for February. Is it your feeling that if this class, ends strongly, and I don't know, will that help create some good momentum that this staff can use to go after elite blue chip guys before they're able to really prove to these kids once the season starts of just how much of a turnaround they're capable of?
Well, I think the junior day indicated that, all the top talented prospects they got coming in for 2021 for that junior day. I think that speaks a lot. They have another junior day on March 7th. So that's going to be another significant one where they have some very talented kids that come in. But I think it speaks to these kids are already starting to believe in every kid that visited over the week. It was a very positive junior day. So I think they're already taking that step forward. But this class is more about filling the gaps, filling the places where you need guys that are going to help you that fit exactly what Norvell is going to do as far as offense, defense. And that's what it's about. You're not going to get 4- and 5-star guys more than likely most of the time when it's a new coach staff just taking over. I know Lane Kiffin's got some talented guys in there, but Lane Kiffin's more of a quick fix stuff where you can get some excitement going early, where Norvell's going to take a little more time. It's a little longer. I kind of compare it to the tortoise and the rabbit race that you read about when you're a little kid. FSU's the tortoise that's starting off a little slow, but at the end, they get to the finish line before the rabbit. So, just people need to be patient with that stuff and understand that, you got a guy that's just taking over. He's having to fill these holes and also fill places that FSU's really not done really well at, done very poorly as far as those positions. So I think so far he's really knocked on the park when you talk about 2 quarterbacks in the early signing period. Got a grad transfer on the offensive line that's highly regarded. It seems to be in that FIU, Devontae Taylor. And then you also added another transfer from Louisville. He came in. Then you get Ja'Shawn Corbin from Texas A&M, who's happened to be the starting running back at Texas A&M. So you get an immediate guy. If he can get a waiver, that helps you immediately big time. So you got a lot of pieces that they put together. And if you take off your garnet and gold glasses and you relax and you understand, you look back exactly what they've done, I think they've done a pretty solid job with addressing their holes. There's still some pieces left. And me and Gene Williams, by the way, will be in Panama City tomorrow night, Tuesday night. So we'll be over there. I'm going to talk about recruiting, tell some good stories. Gene's going to try not to mess up anything that I talk about in recruiting, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And it's always one of our favorite places to go over there, so it's going to be a lot of fun.